Hey, welcome to ShamanMan. It's Nancy.
Hey, David.
And today we're going to be talking about...
Is love and forgiveness making you feel bad?
Stay tuned.
Okay, so what we want to talk about is love and forgiveness. And how in the world would that ever make you feel bad if you were actually experiencing love and forgiveness? So let's break it down a little bit. I'm using those two words interchangeably, even though we understand they have kind of different meanings and in some ways are parallel. But I'm bringing this up because, in talking with a lot of folks and working with a lot of folks, there's a lot of disease and guilt built around the idea that I'm somehow unable to love or forgive, or somehow unable to love or forgive at the appropriate level.
Because there's that teaching of, you should love everyone, you should forgive everyone, you should always, put out love and light all the time and be in that space all the time, which is really unrealistic. And
well, it's also like you somehow have built up this, particularly in a lot of New Age teaching, there's this built up that we should be in this love mode 24/7, which, just isn't possible in terms of our environment and where we live. I mean, it's possible when you're a master, but I think
living everyday life to
thousands of
constantly be
years,
in
there's
love.
only been a few of those guys. So for the rest of us, how do we try to change ourselves? Weed our own garden. And so when you think about love and forgiveness, I want you to think about something a little differently. So, for example, love is really love is a product word, and what I mean by a product word is that a whole bunch of stuff has to happen in order for you to feel true love, right? I mean true love, understanding, compassion, all those things that build up into the big word of love. A lot of little things have to happen. So things like you removing stuff from yourself so that you're not triggered when other things happen externally, right? That reminds you of things.
And being open and giving freely and trust and
generosity.
Joy and happiness, and it's very complex.
Yeah, and gratefulness, right? And, I think you said generosity.
Intimacy.
Right? I think you said being a generous spirit or mind, yeah. And understanding, like, when you're faced with something, your purpose here is that you have this instinctual response to things, right? Like, so something happens that triggers you and you become angry, sad, whatever, this emotion, right? And you're not supposed to stay in those emotions. Those are supposed to be, signs for you to make a change and to move forward in that so that you receive the information, but you're not emotionally charged by that, right? So when you're in a lower place, things don't go as well as when you're in a higher place. And the types of decisions that you make. So coming back to this love concept, when you think about love and you say, a lot of people say, well, I feel bad because I should love this person more than I do. I should feel more love than I do in this situation, circumstance, person, whatever event. And to me, that's a really hard thing. That's like saying, it's a temperature kind of a thing. At what point does it become hot or cold? For Nance, it may be, here's her temperature of where that line is, and for me, here it is, And so we all recognize there's a fact where it becomes lower or higher, but where's the actual line? It's not linear. It's not like, at 5, in a scale of 1 to 10, at 5, you cross the line, right? And that becomes good. Now you really feel love, right? But up until 5, you're not really feeling love. You're feeling more of these things, right? I mean, the reality is love is supposed to be this bucket word to evoke, right?
To be in a positive space. And you can't be in a positive space if you feel guilty because you don't really feel it, or you're being disingenuous, or you're faking it. So the irony of that is that you're supposed to put forth something that you may not necessarily feel or believe to be true, and then you feel badly because you're being disingenuous, and so that doesn't really put out what the intention of all this is this feeling of goodness, that trying to put something positive and that energy
has been whitewashed almost into this little
so really it's more about just trying to be as positive as you can and trying to come from a place of positivity and caring, trying to understand where someone else is coming from,
And that's all
do
judgment.
the best you and
So
do the
think about
best
that.
you can.
That's all the omission of judgment. So everything Nance is mentioning right now is the omission of judgment. In other words, you're not trying to say this is good or bad. You're just trying to understand as it relates to what you're feeling, right?
And do the best that you can. Like, do the best that you can every single day. Try to be the best person you can be. Try to be as kind and caring and thoughtful as you can be. Try to put yourself in another person's position. But don't say, I have to love this person and give love and light all day long, which is exhausting and stressful.
Well, and it makes you feel guilty because
yes.
you can't live up to that because it's not real, right? But look at this in terms of like relationships. Like, so think about how this type thing of love and forgiveness, you know, the big buckets of those two concepts. Think about that from a relationship standpoint, though, and how one party to the other, you know what I'm saying, I feel like I was supposed to love you more, or that you were supposed to love me more, or that you didn't express how you were loving me, right, in the way I thought you should be expressing that, or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying?
Wow, this is getting seriously heavy.
So, but you can see where all the roots stem from this trying to, you know, I'm going to say specify or be very specific or apply love to 15 different things when reality, if you really broke it down, love doesn't exist in 14 of those because it was all these other activities, all these other things that should have been going on that would have evoked that feeling, right? So it's not about...
So it's really more about evoking the feeling and putting yourself in a place where you can feel better and vibe higher, and then also give that to others. It's kind of well, and it's like the pay it forward concept. It's like, you know, put out what you want to receive, and if someone comes at you with hostility, you don't have to say, I love this person who's being hostile to me, but you can say, there's probably a lot of reasons why this person's being hostile to me, and most of them or all of them have nothing to do with me.
Right.
And so I'm
that changes it,
I'm going to practice patience and understanding, and hopefully this person will come around and not be suffering so much in the future.
Right. And or maybe you can even do something to help shift that person if called to do so or whatever.
And if you just show that kindness and that patience, a lot of times it will shift it. You know, what's interesting is years ago I was in a store and the salesperson there was incredibly rude to me, and at the time I was living up north, and people just are rude to each other in general. No offense to northern people, but generally people are a little more abrasive than in the south. And it's just, you get used to it. It's just kind of a way of living. And so this person was really hostile towards me, and I hadn't done anything, but she was probably having a bad day. And I could have responded, you know, really ugly to her and been like, why are you being so rude, you know, or, you know, be ugly back to her. But instead, I just tried to be as friendly and as kind. I said, you know, wow, it's really busy today. You must be exhausted. And she's like, you have no idea. I've been here for like 9 hours. I'm just so ready for a break. Like, I'm ready to go home. You know, so she was just having a bad day. It had nothing to do with me. But if I had responded in turn with hostility,
God, that would have just built it.
It would have just escalated it and just reinforced how much she hates her job. But if I had been like, I love you and I send you love, she would have been like, really,
freaky
lady?
Person.
Yeah.
So
really.
So obviously you have a way of walking the talk. But, you know, in the Tao it says, you know, those who know don't talk and those who don't know talk, right? So
I think we've all experienced that.
So here we are in a video talking to you. What does that say? Right? About all of us. So I think that's enough on this topic, but I wanted to leave you with that and something to think about. So instead of trying to focus on such a big thing like love or forgiveness or compassion and any other big word that actually has so many complex components to it to actually form the word, what if you, in an easier way, just what if you were able to just pinpoint a few things to say, if I focus and do these few things better, then that puts me in that direction, right? And that's something that you can live up to. And those small changes like that have tremendous ripple effect. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're shifting yourself and we're not talking about little short shifts, you know, like, oh, you know, feeling rough, I just want to kind of amp myself up so I can get through this. We're talking about a permanent beingness kind of a shift.
Which takes practice.
It's practice.
You just have to do it every day, and then you don't do it so well some days, and you just adjust it. It's really, and it's what you were saying about the whole thing from the Tao, it's really putting yourself within your mind, and before you speak, you think. And that's something that I've practiced a lot over the last 10 years because I wasn't really raised that way. It was more like just say what you think and then deal with the consequences later. So I've taken time to learn how to think first and decide if what I have to say really has any value, or do I really want to say that? And so that all kind of ties it together, is that make sure the things that you say
are in alignment with
how you feel
and how you want to be and the
Right.
change that you want to see. So, if you're struggling with forgiveness, big word, what if you try to work with some people that are more challenging you, just one, not a whole slew of them, and have, like Nan said, a little more patience, because patience is part of forgiveness. Understanding is part of forgiveness. So if you practice a little more patience and understanding, then that would lead you to the big word of forgiveness, right?
Yes.
So we hope that's helpful. So until next time,
have a beautiful day.
Be well.
Take care.